Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. We cover so many topics on this show across multiple industries every single day. And it can be hard for me to keep up sometimes, especially when I'm planning the questions and planning the shows for the whole week. But I really do hope that you enjoy the eclectic mix of guests from the world of blockchain, retail, education, health, marketing, and so many more. Because for me, all the guests might be from different backgrounds and different industries, but they all have a universal theme. They're using technology to change the world, and in many cases, bring people together. But today, I want to talk about protection, or should I say cybersecurity protection, and why organisations are very often falling behind on cybersecurity training. So today's guest is the CEO of a virtual training lab solution provider called CloudShare. And they're going to talk about why companies may be overtraining with full cyber warfare scenarios, and as a result, unnecessarily losing time. We're also going to expand on how cyber range training can quickly become overkill, how organisations can train their staff as quickly as possible, and why cyber talent development actually needs a scalpel, not a chainsaw. It's a great line. It's not mine. I can't take the credit for it, but it is a great line. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Tel Aviv in Israel, so we can speak with Zvi Guterman, CEO for virtual training lab solution provider CloudShare. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Neil. Excited to join the call today. So short about my background, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in tech for over 20 years. Currently, I'm the founder, CEO of CloudShare, a company that started almost 10 years ago. And before that, I was the founder and CTO of an endpoint security company. It was one of the first solutions for non-TCP/IP ports, such as USB, infrared, Bluetooth, and so on. And eventually, the company was acquired by a public US company. And on the academic side, which I guess is very relevant for this call, I earned my PhD in cryptanalysis, breaking the Windows and Linux kernel random system.
Now, CloudShare is a virtual training lab solution provider, but can you just set the scene and offer an overview of what problems you solve for your clients, and also the story behind you founding your own company?
Sure. I started the company as on CloudShare. I found myself spending enormous time building IT setups. And I kept thinking to myself, can this be simplified in any way? Can I use such a service that I'll just have a turnkey solution with all the required IT environments that I may need? Initially, it was for quality assurance, then security testing, and I couldn't find such a service. And like many other fellow entrepreneurs, I just started my own company, and that is CloudShare. So it's an online service at cloudshare.com that we provide turnkey solution to our customers, and we allow them to get hands-on IT labs without spending too much overhead on building, erasing, editing, changing the setups. The main use cases are training, IT training, sales enablement, so everything from demo to POC, security, and security goes everything from trying to break the environments, to security testing, to cyber range, to integration testing, and so on. And we even get additional use cases such as support, where people are using our system when they're trying to troubleshoot some complex scenario that cannot be replicated in-house.
Now, one of the reasons that I invited you on the show today was after I read that you believe that companies might be overtraining with full cyber warfare scenarios and unnecessarily losing time. and that you believe that organisations can't solve the global cybersecurity crisis overnight. So why are they spending their time skilling up warriors to protect the national grid instead of their own business systems? Can you expand on that a little bit for the listeners?
Sure, would love to. First, I think we should mention that security is complex.
Yeah.
And that by itself, people not always understand how complex it is. And maybe I should mention, first, one of the reasons is that most of our systems were designed many years ago, again, in the early days of the internet, and security was not part of the design. So this is one of the biggest challenges I think that we're still facing today, where hundreds of many years of different layers, from the chip to the application and everything in between, wasn't designed initially with a lot of security in mind. And maybe I'll give one example for the listeners. Think about RFC. This document that many may be familiar, maybe of the listeners, request for comments, which stands for the standards that we use in the internet. It's still in plain English, and it means that it's hard to implement software based on that, and even harder to qualify for its security. So if you take a standard RFC for something like TCP or for SSL or any other protocol, the initial protocol is cumbersome. And that's just the beginning of it, of course. Not to mention other phenomena that are bringing us more and more security challenges, like our wish to get products soon as possible. So we all eager to get the new phone and the new app, and as a result, we're getting better products that not always are very secure. So that's on one hand. I think as a result, we saw huge growth, definitely in the last decade, of security attacks, and of course, many enterprises. Even government, and I think unfortunately we're going to see more and more unhappy events where people get penetrated and people lose expensive data. And what we see, I think, as a result of that, some people overreact, of course, and we see on the board level of many enterprises, and we speak with customers, a lot of pressure to get protected. As a result, people put, of course, a lot of money into that, but as you mentioned in your question, they overreact and they try to build the best fence possible without always understanding, I'm not a nuclear facility, so why should I worry about someone stealing my heavy water? I don't have any heavy water, right? We should think about the things that you really care. Maybe I'll give you another example. Ransomware. I believe the best solution for ransomware is actually in front of all of us, just using simple backup.
Yeah.
If I was a CIO for an organization, the first thing I would implement is a good backup system. So in the worst case that someone penetrate to my organization tomorrow, I have a good backup that I can say, okay, worst case scenario, I lost a day. And of course, I need to make sure that the backup works as planned, etc.
So, like you said, that threat is very real, and we're expecting to see more and more threats, and a lot of CEOs listening are probably a little bit nervous about things like ransomware there and so many other malware attacks. So, like you say, naturally they're going to invest more money and probably go into overkill. But why do you think that cyber age training can quickly become overkill? And at what point do companies need to recognise that they're heading that way?
Yeah, I think that the reason is that the first generation of cyber range is kind of what we see is kind of an old world cyber range, which was initially, of course, planned by government, by army, war games, trying to plan if someone is trying to take over your grid or something like that. And this was adapted to enterprise. And as we just mentioned, it's not necessarily a good match if you're running the IT department for the city of London. It's completely, the risk world is different. You want to test your own IT environment. You want to be much more agile. You want to change different configuration. And let's say you're testing a new database. You want to make sure that you can test your security against this new setup, this new integration. You want to change the way you train. I think what we find right now, that many of the what I would call again first generation or traditional cyber ranges are very heavy, coming and fixed and not able to replicate your own setup. And that's what I think we should as an industry, and we definitely do that as CloudShare, provide a better solution.
So having read much of your writing, and I do love your writing style, can you tell the listeners why cyber talent development needs a scalpel and not a chainsaw?
I think the first reason is that that's the nature of security. In my opinion, security is a world of details. And again, otherwise, if you just come and think you'll build the huge fence, and again, maybe you don't need a fence. You need to think about what kind of threats that you're facing, and security is very much into the details. So you need to work gently and implement the right tools versus just being very, very aggressive.
So what is the secret to training staff as quickly as possible, would you say?
In my opinion, this should be made of three main elements, if I think about that top down. One is understand the enemy, right? We really need to understand, as you think about your assets, your IT department, what is important for you? What will someone penetrate, damage, change, and will hurt your business? So that's the first element, in my opinion. The second, which I think again we see improvement, is to be, in a simplified way, to be very organized, to understand the assets, to run things like backup, to run training, which we still see organization not always planning for the day that they'll be penetrated, and they should be. And the third element, in my opinion, is focus, as we mentioned, focus on your own scenario. Understand your IT environment, as you build, penetrate, try, change, what should be happening when you find out that one of your computers was compromised. So for me, these are the three elements: understanding the risk, understanding the enemy, be organized, plan ahead, and focus on your own scenario versus the generic. Yeah, generic is important. You should know that there is email spoofing, but you should know what's important for you. Are you worried about people losing laptops? Are you worried about someone penetrating to your mail server? Like, what's the real risk for you?
So I read an interesting survey recently that I wanted to bring up with you. I think it was McAfee that recently showed that 92% asked that they believe that gamers have the skills to exceed in cybersecurity as a pro role. I mean, did you see that? What are your thoughts? I mean, McAfee, or John McAfee in particular, has been known to say a few crazy things, but I'm just interested in your opinion on that survey.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I should say I don't have a very strong opinion on this one. I met people that were gamers and did very well on cyber, and vice versa. So I'm not sure if it's a good generalization. I can tell about myself that actually, at young age, I loved to play. As a teenager, I was playing a lot, but later on, unfortunately, didn't have the time. I'm I'm not sure. Again, I see the logic about, again, if you like playing and you get used to solving problems, it somewhat mimic the cyber world. I found, again, and I've seen, again, many people that we recruited over the years in the different roles I had that came from different perspectives. I can say, again, as example, students that, again, did their bachelor in physics were good candidates because they were just smart, and I've seen, again, many, and sometimes, I should say, even, again, early on in my career, we even hired people without any academic background, that we gave them puzzles, again, maybe along these lines of gaming, and that worked well. So I don't have very strong opinions on that.
Now, thankfully, I've left corporate land behind a long time ago, but I still get flashbacks of those wasted countless hours on mandatory training, that you have to sit through for hours, and you seldom remember anything from them anyway. But how are you helping businesses overcome that universal challenge and just capturing people's attention and making sure that information sinks in?
Sure. I think that's a wonderful question, and we mentioned earlier on our dialogue that one, we try to tailor the training into more relevant material to the group. Again, I've seen IT groups that are huge, and you don't want to put 5,000 people and even larger groups through the same training that, again, for many of them may be irrelevant, as you mentioned, and you ideally want to create things that are more relevant to the specific group. The other direction that we definitely see with CloudShare is that the more you move from the theoretical, reading a story, or let's say something happened and let's go over it, which machine will you handle first, and what is hands-on. What we saw hands-on is super effective, and also get people involved and interested, and in general, I think that the hands-on, the fact that you get your own independent copy of an IT environment, you get to play with it, you get to do your own thing, is very helpful in this process of learning.
So CloudShare finished 2017 as the best year in your company's history. So I've got to ask, can you expand and offer maybe a little bit of a teaser? Is 2018 looking good too?
Sure. Yeah. I love nothing more than speaking about CloudShare. Yes. So far, it's halfway right now. Yeah. It seems like it just started, but we are halfway already. So far, we witnessed amazing growth in revenues and in new customers, and we are now working to accelerate our partner program and actually looking for additional partners, definitely global partners around the world, and for, again, listeners of us, if you are on the security side and interested in what we do, please don't hesitate and drop me a line. So that's on the revenue and the growth. On the product side, my team was busy introducing new features, some of them, again, very related to this growth. We introduced support of multiple languages, and we see as we grow, we see the different users that prefer to have the entire interface in their own language and tailored to their needs, again, like Japanese or German or Chinese or whatever, of course. And we keep also pushing features that will allow IT professionals to focus more and more on their needs versus the infrastructure. So things like replication or record and replay are being introduced, and you'll see more and more of that throughout the rest of the year.
Well, you did mention there that listeners can drop you a line, so I've got to ask, can you just remind them of where they can find CloudShare online, and also contact yourself or a member of your team if they've just got any questions about our conversation today?
Sure, would love to. I love a good dialogue, and the best is probably to use either my LinkedIn profile or my email. So again, Zvi Guterman on LinkedIn. Or if you want to drop me a line on my email, it's my first name, Zvi, at cloudshare.com. Just please help me, as I get hundreds of emails daily, and I do try to answer, of course, all the relevant ones. Just please help me with a good subject line.
I wish you luck there as your inbox gets bombarded as we speak. Well, a huge thanks for coming on today. I love the topics you've covered there about how cyber range training can quickly become overkill, and also why cyber talent development needs a scalpel, not a chainsaw. And I do love your writing style, but more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
Thank you very much, Neil. This was wonderful.
The big takeaway for me here is that organisations cannot solve the global security crisis overnight. So why are they spending valuable time skilling up warriors to protect the national grid instead of their own business systems? Unless, of course, the grid system is your business. But I must admit, in my experience, many companies don't do enough to educate users outside of IT on the dangers of phishing attempts, malware attacks, etc. But that's just me and my guest's opinion today. What is yours? I want you to be a part of this conversation too. So email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. I think cybersecurity is now everybody's business, and I'm curious on your experience, whether you be a leader, a CEO, a IT director, or just a user in or outside of IT. But it has been a pleasure having you with me today. I could get used to having you around. So do you fancy doing it again tomorrow? You got yourself a deal, my friend. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll search for another guest and rush them over for your listening pleasure tomorrow. But until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.